Ronen, hello. Sorry for a bit of a delay. We got a little bit of a delay with the previous lecture before the hour. That's why it happened like this. Ladies and gentlemen, Ronen Bar. I try to introduce him in the best way possible. Future Meat, Sentient, this kind of organization, agricultural foundation, long-term activist from Israel, Ronen was participating in Eurasian Animal Rights Gathering last year, gave an amazing speech, and that's why we are very happy to hear and see him this year introducing his lecture about creativity in animal rights, to share his amazing experience and educate us more about what can we do in terms of creativity in favor of our fellow beings on this planet. Hello, Ronen.
Hi, Oleg. How are you?
Good. You?
I'm fine. Everything's good. In Israel, it's a lockdown now.
I know.
It's quarantine. Israel is becoming.
The previous one I witnessed myself when I was living in Poland. So yeah, I can imagine how it's now. It's impossible to move from one city to another and so on. Yeah, my friends are saying.
Yeah, definitely. But it's the second one. Israel is actually the first country ever to have this in the Corona area to have the second lockdown, mandatory lockdown. But we're already used to it, so it's not that bad, you know.
Hopefully, thankfully, we have internet, so we can still be connected. This is cool.
Yeah.
Okay, if you want to introduce yourself more, please. If not, you can go directly to your presentation. Thank you so much, and we are all yours.
Thanks, Oleg. So I'll just say very shortly, I'm an animal rights activist for about 12, 13 years, something like that. I've been vegan for the same period of time, I guess. I was an undercover investigator. I mean, I still am. I go to factory farming and slaughterhouses in Israel and also abroad and do undercover investigations. And I manage Sentient, which is a nonprofit who executes undercover investigations, mostly worldwide, but also some in Israel, usually about factory farming, but not just. Like we did also an undercover about abuse of cats. The biggest spaying and neutering company in Israel. And also I'm the chairman of the board of the Modern Agriculture Foundation, which is a nonprofit that promotes alternative proteins, which means plant-based meat, cultured meat, and all of these things. So these are the two main areas that I'm focused on at the moment. And my lecture today is about creativity. So I want to share some the presentation with you. And Oleg, please tell me if there are some technical problems. Okay. Okay. So now I guess you see, right, my slide?
Yeah, it's works.
Yeah, and also during the presentation, I will ask the viewers questions. There will be some exercises. So I will be happy for participants, online participants. So technically, if you can bring someone up who wants to participate and answer, and then we can do it. So I'll start creativity, not what you had in mind. This is what I will, this is my assumption, or this is what I want to try to say today, that it's usually not what we have in mind when we think about what is creativity and how do we promote ourselves to be more creative. Okay. Now, so what are the fundamentals of increasing creativity? So I want to give 3 things which I think are fundamental, and at the end of the lecture, I'll go back to them and explain why I think they are fundamental. The first one is hard work. The second one is systemization, being very systematic about what you do. And the third one is order. So I'll go back to that at the end. Now I want to start even more generally with our work as activists. What is our work composed of? So I think it's composed of 3 main topics or areas. The first is an idea pool. We have some pool of ideas which we try to enlarge. The second one is choosing from this pool of ideas. And the third one is executing these ideas that we chose to execute. So sometimes the big problems are in the execution, right? We may have tremendous or wonderful ideas, but we just don't know how to execute them correctly. Sometimes we didn't choose the right ideas, but sometimes the problem is in the first stage, which is the idea pool. We need more ideas, more creative ideas, more good ideas. And it can be in the level of the project, or it can be in the level of something very specific within the project. Let's say like an art display that we want the media to be very interested in. So we try to think about a picture which is very creative, which is very interesting, that will interest journalists. So my lecture today is more about the idea pool. How do we get ourselves to come up with more ideas, more creative ideas, and better ideas? So just a disclaimer, I'm by no means an expert on creativity. I've just been studying and exercising on myself and my activism with other people also this topic for the last year or so, I think. I studied from books. I read a book called To Think Like Leonardo da Vinci. I saw some online lectures. I'm taking a course now on something which I will talk about later that has to do with creativity. It's called How to Be an Artist of Questions. How to be an artist of asking questions. And I spoke to people. I spoke to people who I think are creative, like one very funny comedian from Israel and others. But this is my experience. I'm a rookie at this, so I'm studying together as I go along, and I hope just to share my thoughts with you and maybe start some process of us together trying to go deeper into this area, which I think is important for all of us as activists. Why do we need this lecture? This is something I want to talk about for a second. Why is it necessary for us to learn about creativity, right? Or to think about it, or to come up with methods to improve our creativity? Why should we do that at all? And this is where I want to start with the first exercise. If you can, take 10 seconds and just concentrate on your breath. Nothing else, not thoughts, not paying attention to things around you, nothing. Just close your eyes and for 10 seconds, be only in the breath. Okay, I will count. 10 seconds, starting now. Let's do it. Eyes closed. Okay. Did anyone succeed in not thinking about anything in these 10 seconds and concentrating only on the breath? Is there anyone who succeeded? Raise the hand or something. Oleg, you did? Really? No thought came across your mind in all of these 10 seconds?
No thoughts. The only thing I couldn't ignore the sounds of public transport on the street, but yeah, okay. I'm sometimes I'm quite successful with no thinking at all. I can make myself too.
So you're an excellent meditator. Excellent meditator. No, seriously, it's amazing. Yeah. I mean, I thought just in these 10 seconds, I thought, wow, these people must be thinking I'm really stupid. Why do I do these silly things? And I thought about the air around me, and I thought, am I counting correctly? I mean, I count, 21, 22, where am I?
Yeah, you see.
So many thoughts, and it's just 10 seconds. What I wanted to show in this exercise is that our brain is fundamentally like a monkey brain. It's always going from one thing to the other. You catch this tree and you catch this banana, and then you jump to another tree and you do this and you do that. You're always in motion, never steady. And people who meditate, I meditate, it's very noticeable that this is the case. But when you try to think creatively, you try to focus on something specific, right? And think about that. Your mind cannot wander to other things like, what do I eat in 2 hours? Or I don't know, something else, or the corona or whatever. So the methods are supposed to help us one of their aspects is to concentrate and always bring us back to what we want. Because if we just think about things spontaneously and we say, okay, let's be creative now, let's think of something, our monkey brain is too powerful. And sometimes it just distracts us again and again and again. So this is why I think it's important. And creativity, like every other thing, is something that we can learn and improve. It's not some, I don't know, skill that you're born with or something from the sky. It's totally up to us and how much we developed inside it. So here is the sentence that I wrote. Creativity is not something that you have or you don't have. It's not something that falls out of the sky. It's something you can learn and improve. Okay. So here I want to start with the methods. What methods do we have of being more creative? And this is actually what I've been trying to learn for the past year or so. And the first method I want to talk to you about, and this is actually a method that came out of a comedian who did a small course about creative writing and thinking. And he told me that, and it was quite surprising. So I call it the compartmentization. Sorry, it's a bit of a hard word, but it's the compartmentalization method. Yeah, compartmentalization method. So it says you take a subject and you divide it into smaller compartments, and then you think about it, all the small compartments separately and not the whole big issue. So I want to give an example about that. Just take 30 seconds and think about a very good idea to help the campaign against live exports. I'm sure most of you are aware, right? You have the international campaign against the shipment of animals, which are going from Australia to the Middle East, Europe to the Middle East, and other parts of the world. It's called live export. Very hard conditions in the ships, and many animals are dying on the way. Let's just take 30 seconds and think about a very good creative idea how we can help this campaign against live export. Okay, 30 seconds. Okay. Anyone wants to share with us some ideas? Oleg?
Can I? Yeah, basically I stole the idea, but I guess it's not that bad for this example as well. Yeah, I don't know if you watched this movie. The movie was called Witness, The Witness, I guess, about the guy who this is the documentary about the guy working on some factory and so on. At some point, he found out something about animals. He adopted a cat. He went vegan, and he ended up with making his minivan. Made all the surface of the minivan was made with the monitors showing the horrors of animal tests. And I just thought that against this live expert, the minivan could be made out of this either the same like cow, for example, on all the monitors. So it's kind of a imitation of the live expert horrors, but in the, on the minivan, for example, or different kind of animals like in the sheds with the bars and stuff, like going through the city as well, and be even with a louder sound, much louder sound that it is in reality, for example. Something like that, no? It's just the only thing that came on my mind. I don't know.
Interesting. So let me tell you how we will deal with this situation if we try to look at it from the perspective of the compartmentalization method. Yeah, dividing it, dissecting it, disintegrating this whole issue. So we would say, okay, this is a big issue. It's very generic. It's hard for us to think about things which are very generic. We'll start to divide it. So let's say the first, and you can divide it in many ways, but let's say the first division is, let's think about some of the stages that the live exports are going through. So the first stage is boats, right? What can we do with boats? Specifically with boats. So maybe we can do some art protest with a big boat, right? Maybe we can do some vigil in front of a boat with ships. I don't know, right? Maybe we can think about some other things, right? So we will focus on the boat, and then we will go forward. What's happening after the boat? The boat is coming to the port, right? What can we do with the port? Is a port something that we can do with? So what I thought, when I did this at home, I thought, okay, a port, maybe we can arrange a strike of the workers in the port. Let's say if live animals go, we strike one day a year. Maybe we can find testimonials of ex-workers who helped prompted the cattle from the ship down with electric prods, etc. These are some of the ideas that came to mind. And then I said, okay, what's the next step? The next step is the trucks, right? What do we do with the trucks? So I thought, okay, let's take a vehicle that will follow these trucks back and forth. And in the vehicle, you'll have a huge sign saying death truck. Shame on us, something like that. I wanted to observe this, if this helps you. For me, it helps a lot. Maybe for you, for other people, I mean, different people think in different ways, but I find that for me, once I divide it and start going 1, 2, 3, 4, and then, by the way, you can divide it in many ways. This is just one way. I find that suddenly I have much more ideas. Much more creativity is coming up because it's concrete. It's not something that is generic. It's like, I could have asked something even more generic, right? What can we do for animals? You know, that's the most generic thing, right? What can we do for animals? Or even, what can we do for reducing suffering? This method says, divide it into smaller and smaller and smaller pieces. And if you're having a hard time thinking about something that has to do with the ship, think even more specifically, the ship at sea, the ship at the port, parts of the ship. What do I do with the windows of the ship? What do I do with the truck when it's standing? What do I do with the truck when it's going? Divide it and divide it. This is the compartmentalization method. I tried so hard to say it correctly before the lecture, and it's not always successful. Okay, this is the compartmentalization method. The second method is analogies. I find this method very interesting because once we do it, ideas start rising up just like by themselves, very, very easily. So let me give you just an example. And I want you to remember, during this whole lecture, please don't think if these ideas are good or are bad or feasible or not feasible, or maybe they will cause harm more than good. We're not here to judge. We're just here to say, how do we expand the circle of ideas? Because I think a pool of ideas is something you throw. Don't be shy. Just throw, and then you can pick from whatever is good. So what I thought about analogies, I thought about, let's try to do some analogy to the feminist movement. So I tried to think a little bit how the feminist movement works on social media. So for instance, in Israel, they have quite a successful Facebook page which follows the media and follows stories in the media which shows bad attitude towards women or chauvinism, etc. So we don't have such a thing in the animal rights movement, right? But all the stories are filled with animals being, you know, just a few months ago, there was a headline in Israel's biggest website, and it said that a couple of hundred of there was a fire in Israel, never mind, some fire, and they said no casualties, no one was hurt, a few hundred animals died. No one was hurt, a few, I think it was dozen actually, not hundred. No one was hurt, a few dozen animals died. So this is how they treat animals. Like, and it's the same sentence, one after the other. It's not like it's in two different parts of the story. The same story, the same sentence. How much without consciousness to animals can you be to write such a thing? So I thought maybe it's interesting. Maybe we need something like that, such a page. Another thing is the feminist movement, I think, has villains, right? It has bad guys with names, with pictures. Do we have that? It got me thinking, do we have that? Do we need that? Is it good for us to have that? That was another thought I had. Another thought I had is, what's the language that the feminist movement is using to convey its message? So they have like the rape culture. I guess you're familiar with this concept, or the patriarchy or things like that. What about like the murder culture or the animal torture culture, right? Just try to see if there are some analogies to what they're doing in our world, in the animal rights world. And they have more words. What's good about this, that it didn't take me actually any creativity to create all of these ideas. all I did is just a thought, what's happening in the feminist movement, and can we bring this to the animal rights movement? I think the more creative process is later on converting them so they are more fitted into our problems and culture and space, because it's different from the feminist space. But analogies make things just pump up by themselves, and that's, I think, is amazing, just amazing. I did in the Modern Agriculture Foundation, it's the nonprofit in Israel which promotes alternative proteins. We did such a session that I told them, look, our analogy is this: you are hunters, right? You are trying to hunt animals and kill them. So first of all, who do you hunt? Who do we hunt as a nonprofit which promotes alternative proteins? Scientists, entrepreneurs, etc. What methods do we have for hunting? Do we try to lure the animals to come to us, like the hunters are doing sometimes with the sound, you know, with sometimes with vision, or do we just go to wherever and think maybe there will be an animal there, or do we try to lure them to us? Do we take a drone and fly it over the forest and see where there are more animals, and then we focus on these areas? And these are all analogies that can raise very interesting questions in our space, in the space of promoting good technology that will help animals, but it can be other things. I think everyone here in his activism can try this analogy. What if you were a hunter? How do hunters work? What can I take from hunters, etc. So analogies, I think, is a great tool, and really the most powerful thing. You don't have to come up with anything at first. You just take things from one to the other, and it happens on its own. By the way, our manager, our executive director at the Modern Agriculture Foundation is from the pharmaceutical industry. So he takes a lot of things, just copy paste from the pharma industry to the alternative protein space, and it works great. And it's not that he's being very creative, he's just taking a copy paste. And it's good because he comes from another world. So think that in your, let's say, meeting of the nonprofit or of activists, you can have some kind of routine that every month another activist brings some analogy from another world. It can be a world that you know, it can be that you like, it can be sports. By the way, about sports, right? Who is the goalkeeper? Who are who's the referee? How do we pass the ball between us, etc. So every meeting, someone else can bring some analogy from another world, and the more he knows about this world, the better. Different perspectives, looking at things through a totally different angle than we did before. And I think one of the interesting things about this is taking some character, person, either you know them personally or you admire them, let's say, I don't know, Steve Jobs, and asking, what would he say in this situation? What would he think in this situation? Like if the Dalai Lama were to come to a meeting against live export, what would he suggest we do? What would be his thoughts on that? Or another thing is like, let's say, two people that are speaking to each other. If Buddha and Jesus were talking about the project that we are trying to do, what would they come up with? When we did it in the Modern Agriculture Foundation, I told them, think what will happen if Steve Jobs were to come from the grave and create a cultured meat company. How would the products look like? What would be his emphasis? And really interesting things came out of this, because we know what he does with Apple, so we can think what he will do in another world. So different perspectives also, I think, is a very interesting method. Let me see just if I wrote down something else about this. No, I think that's it. Okay. The next thing is questions. So I'm now taking a course from some very interesting person, and the course is called How to Become an Artist of Questions. And really, it's a big course. I think it's 20-30 hours, something like that. So I didn't really know how to squeeze it and how to talk about it very fast. But the basic of asking questions, let's say, not the basic, but one thing I didn't want to mention about it is try to think about challenging questions for each other. Challenging questions that will make you think about things in a different light, or will make you open up your mind. So let me give you an example, again, from the Modern Agriculture Foundation. I tried this with our executive director, and I had 4 questions for him. I wrote 4 questions, which I thought could be a challenge to him. The first one was, what uniqueness do you want to see in our nonprofit? The inside management compared to other nonprofits. The second one was, why no one from the most wealthy 20 people in Israel met anyone from our nonprofit promoting alternative proteins during the last years? And it's true, no one from the top 20 most wealthy people have met anyone except one incident. The third one is, give 3 economic models for our NGO to make profit without donations. And there are such models, how nonprofits can make money without donations. And the fourth one was, do we only do positive work or do we also do some negative work? And negative, I mean against bad technology. So we're just promoting positive, what we see as positive technology, which means fermentation, cultured meat, plant-based meat. But what about opposing the technology of aquaculture and other developments which are bad technology, which are hurting animals? By the way, there are a lot of such technologies, like also genetically modified animals, etc. Do we do that, or we just stay away from it? So the way to think, I think, about questions. So what we were taught in this course is the way to think about the question. We have the question world and we have the answers world. And the questions world is liquid. It's not solid. It makes you think about things from the beginning. The answers world is a lot more solid. It's grossified. It's solidified. So if we come back to the question world, I think it makes us re-examine our assumptions and rethink and come up with much more creative ideas and things. So this is a very big topic, and it was actually quite hard for me. I think you saw that, to summarize it, because it's it's a structured course that we studied for quite a lot. But I hope you got still something from what I said. Very, very easily is just trying to challenge each other with interesting questions that can make you think about your activism from the start. Or not from the start, from the middle. Okay. The next thing I want to talk about is language. And I find this tool very, very important and very, very mind-opening. What I will suggest is that each and one of you try to create his own words between you as activists, or even between you and yourself, to help you create more awareness to the things that you want. And language is awareness. It creates awareness. So I'm going to give examples and to make it clearer. So one word that I came up with a few months ago is changer. If we have if we look at the activist world, we have vegans, right? We have activists, but changers are the ones who spend most of their money, energy, or time for animals. In contrary to activists. Activists are, of course, very helpful, very useful, but it's not their main job or the main thing that they do in their lives. Changers are the ones who spend most money, time, or energy on this, on helping animals. And then once I created this word, I created some awareness that I didn't have before. Now, it's not that I didn't know that this exists before, but once you give it a clear word, which is just one simple, a combination of letters, something happens within the awareness, and then questions arise. And what kind of questions arose for me? Who are the activists among me, which is specifically important that they become changers, from activists to changers? Should we have a conference only for changers? Is the ratio in the animal rights movement between activists and changers is the right one? How do we attract more people to become changers, and not via money? there are other ways to attract people to become changers, not just more money in the movement. How do we do that? And this creates more and more and more questions. And when you hang around, you have this word in your head, it's like a tool that you can use here and there and in other places. So I think changer is for me personally. So I want to ask you now, has any one of you created between yourselves as activists, or even between you and yourself, just created some kind of word which he likes to share, which helped him in his personal activism?
I assume we were creating like at least a time ago, but more for fun, not for usage, just between ourselves, you know.
What was the word?
I'm not sure I should say this in live, but yeah, I can. It was this idea of some guy to invent the like the inner word for those like animal breeders, you know, people who make money out of breeding animals, and I offered the word like the genital measurers or something like that. I guess this is how it can be, because they always measure, you know, the length of the nose and stuff. There's a genital measurer. I guess this is how it can be translated from Russian. So this is just the first thing that came on my mind, and the less offensive that we were inventing. So yeah, something.
A lot of times people create words for fun because it's something funny, but I think it also has a very more a serious activist side. Oleg, can we get some answers from people? Is it technically, I mean, whether they raise their hands and then you see them or something like that, that we can have someone come up and tell us about some word that he made up?
Yeah, people. People are basically either on the chat or they just follow, but they muted, you know, by themselves. Yeah. Other people are following social networks. So I would say it's more like a passive following right now.
But if we have someone who wants to say something to us, can he just unmute himself and say it?
Yeah, for sure.
Sure. Okay, is there anyone who wants to share some kind of a word with us, or no one has used some kind of terminology? Think about an inner terminology that you have.
You don't see anything? I will look on Facebook.
No one.
No, I guess no one.
No one. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So another word which I think is that I thought of is, and again, these are not, sometimes it's not words that really, I don't know, tell you something you didn't know. A changer didn't tell you anything you didn't know, but the way, the actual formation of a word makes the awareness much bigger for this. So there's something I call the squeezing pattern. Let me tell you something about the person who's managing this course of the being an art of questions. He told us that 20 years ago, every day he asked himself, every day he has this pattern that he had to write 10 things he learned today. Every day, 10 things. And he did it for a year or something like that. And what he said that he found out was the first 2-3 things were very easy to write and obvious. You know, I learned this, I learned that. The next things were little, small, insignificant things that he learned. But the 7th thing and the 8th and the 9th were really the gold, very significant things. And he would never have gotten to know these things if we hadn't created a pattern which has 10 things, not less, not 9, not 7, not 2, 10 things. That's, for me, that's a squeezing pattern. You squeeze something out of yourself that wouldn't have been squeezed if you hadn't created this thing. If you think about it, when we do physical exercises, it's all squeezing patterns. Why do we say that we do 10 push-ups or 20 push-ups? We just can do however much push-ups we want, right? And if we try, no, you're doing 20. We should do that a lot more, I think, when we think about ideas or we try to challenge ourselves mentally, right? Give me 4 ideas to to an art protest for whatever you're doing, right? Or give me 2 new words. What else? Wait a second. Yeah, and we can use that in a lot of situations. So let's say also when you're meeting people, you can think about ending meetings with some people, with giving them some kind of a squeezing pattern, something that will squeeze more out of them for the animals, such as give me 2 names of connections that you think can help animals, other connections, especially when you're meeting with people with connections and powerful people. That's one example. For instance, one of the things that one of my mentors told me to do is asking 5 people to help me with activism every day. It was kind of a crazy pattern, so I couldn't follow it. But every day he wants me to ask 5 people to help me with with my activism in different ways, because he thinks I'm not asking enough help from others. I'm like a little bit ashamed. I don't want to, disturb anyone. So he noticed that about me. He said every day, and 5, not 4 or 5. So that squeezed something different out of me. So that's about squeezing patterns. And just the final example about language is that we had some project in Israel a few years ago that actually didn't succeed well, but the project goal was to target influential people, usually that we know that have some kind of affiliation, even if it's small, to animals, and meet them and offer them to help animals in something that they can help with. And the idea was not to come just for one project or one nonprofit or from one, campaign. No, offer them the whole area. You can help animals by this and this and this and this and this. Choose whatever you want. And the award that we created around this was not to activate someone, but to fit someone. And there's a difference, a big difference between the two, because to activate someone is to just make them active, do anything. But to fit someone is to find the thing for them which will make them do what will use their skills in the best way. And these are 2 different things. And sometimes we said, this one, we just want to activate him right now. We'll feed them later. The most important thing that he'll do something, because it's like a foot in the door. But with others, we said, no, this one is gotta be fitted. So that was a word which helped us, which created something. So that's about language. And now I want to go to an exercise again. I will be happy for others also to participate. Think about, no, actually, I think we'll do the next exercise. Let's see. Okay, let's continue with this one now. So exercise for you to try at home is 5 challenging questions for an activist or organization. So what I would like right now is for one person to go up online and tell a bit, just in a sentence, about his organization or what he does as an activist and what he's doing. And we'll try to think together about 5 questions which will challenge him in his activism and maybe make him think about things he didn't think before. Is there anyone who wants to go up and tell about his organization, and we'll try to challenge him?
I can.
The usual. Okay, great.
Well, there's not much of an organization that I'm really in. I try to contribute to many organizations, like both in Russia and Georgia, wherever. Right now, we are working with another activist and my good friend. We're working on the project of making the publishing house. Like, we want to publish vegan and animal rights, like comic strips in Russia. And I guess this is the current thing, what we want to do. Another thing for the future I'm planning is to making this kind of a sociological company. I even invented a very nice name for it, like Global Research Institute of Bioethics, like something to gather the information like from the social survey, social polls from the people, systematize it by topics or like in general about animals and people, like how are they, about the attitude of the people towards animals. And this might be helpful for the animal rights organizations to, to plan the activities, because when you know the statistics and when you know how the society actually, not in our beliefs, but actually think and relate to animals, I guess this is a very important thing. At least I can see how it works in politics, and it really inspires me that there's lots of stuff that we don't know about ourselves relating to animals, and it can really like improve animal rights activities globally and locally. So
Oleg, this center, it will be a research center who will gather data about the attitude towards animals worldwide. So it will be a research center that gathers data, or also it tries to promote and tries to create content which will help animals.
exactly, because well, I realized that this is something useful when I was making this kind of sociology poll for open cages, when I was working in open cages, and the results, it was in Belarus, and the results like really amazed us, because it turned out that people have basically no idea how chickens in the hen farm are confined, what they're going through, and how the eggs actually appear in the refrigerators. And like 85% of people wouldn't go for it if there would be any alternatives to it, to the battery farms, or if they would know about, these kind of things. And same in Russia, like all this, like even small information leaking into our like information field shows that Russia is actually the country of animal lovers, but Russians don't know this about themselves. That's why it doesn't reflect on the society the way it could, so this kind of things are pushing me towards this. I don't know why I'm talking about myself, sorry.
No, so it's good, Oleg, it's very good.
I just wanted to give the perspective. I wanted to give the perspective of the perspective of this, of what this 5 challenging question would be in my case, as long as there is nothing actually like I'm in now, but there are certain plans. So we're
no, it's a plan, but you can challenge plans just as well. Okay, let's try to think about 5 challenging questions. Anyone wants to offer some kind of a challenging question? I will go first. The first question will be, what would be the focus on the age group? Because you have adults, you have children. Children are being brainwashed in a different way than adults, right? So my first question that pump up, will you have some focus on different age groups and the information that they are aware of? Or should we have a group which is more important than the other group? Some say that the little children are the most important. The second question that will come to mind is, will you invent new words and new terminology that will help, that will be the counter to the current terminology, which is the terminology of the language of the oppressor, the one who oppresses and hurt and exterminates animals? That's 2 questions I had in mind. Anyone else has some kind of a thought for a question? Okay. You can write in the chat. If they write in the chat, you will see it, Oleg.
Yeah,
right?
sure. Yeah.
So if anyone has something, please write in the chat. Let me try to think about other challenging questions. So the first one was the age group, I said. The second one was the language, information center. The third one is, will this be a wiki that people can add information? Let's say even if it's researchers or people who are more experts, or will this be something closed for the public to participate? Maybe you can have some even online, though they're not very, maybe the methodology there is quite shaky if it's an online polls and things like that. So this is the third question. Okay, so these are 3 challenging questions. What other, let's think together, what other questions can we have to try to challenge Oleg with his project of creating this social database? Is it supposed to be global, all database from all the countries in the world, or focused on Russia, let's say, in the beginning?
I would start the same country I'm staying at the moment, when I just had the money for the first survey, and but make it like, I see it as something really global, and something that the enterprises, like this branches in different countries can share, and also share ideas. So it's kind of a network, of what can be done. And
if I take analogies for a second, Oleg, and I try to think about, let's say, the WWF and the Living Planet Index. The Living Planet Index is a measure of the state of the populations of vertebrates all over the world. And every year they publish a report which says how much the populations of vertebrates, which we know they are sentient, all the vertebrates are sentient, can feel pain and pleasure, how much they declined. So I call it the animal genocide, the wild animal genocide. So how much this genocide has grown big. And every year it's the report, and it gets published in many places all over the world. And it shows, the last report showed, I think, a 68% decline from the 70s. So the animal populations from the 70s show a 68% decline from 1970 to 2000, I think 18, if I'm not mistaken, like 2 years ago. So that's a crazy animal genocide. It's a huge animal genocide that these animals are going through. But the fact that every year they have some kind of a report and a number, which is like the highlight of this report, makes it a lot more friendly to the media. What will be your annual report and what will be the main headline in this report?
Again, like the main headline will be something like that. Yeah. Every second family in Russia has a cat, you know, something like that. Something really shocking that people don't know about themselves. Like they know about themselves, but they think they are different from the other society, you know. And this unity that can be provided by this kind of data taken from the survey, this is the most crucial thing, because it makes people more connected and more, you know, relaxed about like the attitude towards problem. That because this is how all these terrible practices are being continued. People are being convinced that the other people around them are cruel idiots and nothing can be changed, you know, just because people are kept in the shadows.
But Oleg, I want to bring you back to the question. My question was, and you diverted from the question. Give me a title, and a good title. The fact that every second Russian has a cat is not a title which will catch headlines all over the world. As a journalist, I'm saying it's not. Maybe it will, but it's not interesting enough. You know, it doesn't entail any animal cruelty or anything that they don't know about animals, right? It just says the fact that many Russians have pets,
okay,
which I believe your organization will do something much more fundamental than that. So that's the challenge.
Sure.
Give me the headline of the first yearly report.
You know, I need to invent it. This is the problem, because I need to. Okay.
So that's the challenging question. That was exactly the essence of this. And my final question to you, and this is because I have to give 5, right? I'm squeezing something out of me.
Okay.
4 came, 3 came easily, but then I'm trying. It's hard. I'm squeezing more. I have to give 1 more. So the last question is, if you had a conference every year, you have a yearly conference of your association. Give me 3 lectures in this conference, the topic of 3 lectures, what they will be about.
What they will be about. Conference. Why should I have conference?
Shouldn't have conferences at all.
Yeah, maybe conference would be a nice idea. You know, it's just like you're bringing me to nice ideas. I just thought that I can share the information with the media. Working with the media was the main idea of mine, you know. I didn't think about anything else yet, because I'm also a journalist, and I agree that, yeah, every second family with a cat is not very good headline, but I just didn't come up with anything better yet. So
I would even only come up with 3 different headlines from 3 different years of report or something like that.
Okay, at least I have something for my homework, because I am not sure I will invent something really good now. But can you give me some advices, like how it can sound like?
I don't know enough about the titles in your organizations, but if the main findings you say, No, but
Yeah.
let's try to understand exactly the main findings, and then we'll come up with a headline. The main finding is, you said the Russians, on the one hand, they love animals, right? They really love animals. On the other hand, they don't know all the cruelty that is happening in factory farming, right? This is
The main thing here is that people basically, in majority, turns out that they like animals, but they don't know how to express it first, and they are uncomfortable to express it because they are convinced that most of people around them don't like animals, and that's why it's not socially approved behavior and so on. To make it the socially approved behavior, the truth that people don't know about themselves, this I see as the main mission here, you know?
So I think first we need a word for that, right? You have these animal lovers in the closet, right? They're in the closet. They cannot
Yeah.
express that they love animals. Maybe even they're not eating animals. I don't know.
Okay.
So you have this closet animal lovers, right? That's a phenomenon. If you have data on that, I think that's a phenomenon. Maybe that can be just a headline, you know, like other headlines. So for instance, just to give an example from another world, we have a lot of ultra Orthodox in Israel. These are really extreme religious people. And there is a phenomena of extreme religious people who are don't believe totally in God, in anything, but they stay in the community and no one knows that. Secretly, they go to pubs, they have a life like secular people, but they're like in the closet in their own community. So, and there were stories about that. It's interesting. So if you're saying that in Russia, there is this phenomena of animal lovers in the closet, maybe that, and you have data to prove that, maybe that's the title, the headline.
I would call it maybe latent animality or something like that, you know? Like discrete animality.
And animal lovers in the closet is not good?
Animal lovers in the closet, yeah, it sounds good, but it sounds also a bit, you know,
the Russians in closet, it's a problem, right?
no, and like
speak about this thing.
The combination animal lovers in the closet, I instantly imagine two animal lovers who are doing something like sex in the closet between themselves, you know. Yeah,
no, but that if it's a title, maybe it can attract, and then you explain in the
true that.
But it's not very informative. I agree. It's not. Maybe a title for journalists better to be maybe more informative. Maybe just the simple thing is, in Russia, people love animals but are forced to hide it. I said forced to hide it. Forced. Maybe that's a more informative title. I would also think what kind of data you can create with questions for these people if you're doing polls or whatever, like active, if you're not only taking data that already exists, to try to create interesting headlines or titles, or just interesting information that would then create these titles and headlines. Not for the title, first for the information. So I don't know what that will be, but if we can find out, like, because the questions are very important. What kind of data are you searching? What kind of cross data you are putting together? That can create the whole framing of this thing. And there are so many possibilities. Okay. I think it was an interesting session. I hope for you too, Olen.
For sure. It was like, wow, for sure.
And I think we use a lot of the methods here. So it's asking questions. It's a squeezing pattern, right? Challenging questions. It's 5 challenging, not less, just 5. It's language, right? So maybe we need to have one word for animal lovers in the closet. And then maybe you try to think about 5 other words which you need for this project of yours. And we didn't use the compartmentalization method on this, but maybe we should do that also. But I see, we're running out of time. Wow. Okay. So if we were to do that, what I wanted to do in the next exercise is think about a task or a goal from your activism, which can be improved by creativeness, one that could use new ideas. And we will examine this by our methods that we just talked about, which is compartmentalization, analogies, different perspectives. Yeah, what would someone that you admire or care about or think is interesting would do in this situation, would offer. Questions, which I think we spoke a lot about that, and language. And if you take a subject, if we were to have more time, we will do that, and just analyze it with all of these methods, I think a lot of new things just come up, a lot of questions, a lot of ideas, a lot of new paths that we can use to make our work more creative and explore more ideas and more possibilities. And I think that is really, really important. So I want shortly, because we don't have a lot of time, and also I want to open it up for questions and if someone wants to say something. What other methods or what other things can be used for creativeness? The first thing I want to talk about is the thing in the left down corner, mind mapping. I don't know if you heard this, but mind mapping is just a visual way to picture an idea like a tree. You start with something in the middle, and then it has a lot of branches which reach out from that, and a lot of sub branches. And there are studies which show that mind mapping gets people to understand the thing better and be more creative and remember better, because it's a lot more visual than just the plain text on the paper. So when I did first this lecture about creativity, I had a mind map of it, and it really helped me. Just a simple mind map, a bubble with 5 different sections, which I'm going to talk about. And I think that can really help. I've been working a lot for the past 6 months with mind mapping, and I really, really urge you to try it. Mm-hmm. The second thing is, I call it sterile time. Our time is being distracted by so many things. Our phone, noises, other things that other people that are calling us. And if we want to be creative, these distractions are not helping, right? It's the monkey brain. We're thinking about something, we try to come up with more ideas, but then, oh, we have a WhatsApp. So we answer the WhatsApp, and it's about something else. So our mind gets diverted. The more you can be focused, the better. In a minute, I will say something which contradicts that. And for me, let's say this meant that I had to like reprogram my phone. So not reprogram, but just things that are available to everyone there. So I don't have any notifications in sound from WhatsApp, from my computer, anything. I even don't see anything. When someone sends me a WhatsApp, I don't see anything. Only if I come in to the WhatsApp, I see that. And it's not a small thing. It's a very big thing. A Facebook, the same thing. All of these applications are made to make you hooked, and all of these small things, like even sometimes you see a red bubble, which just means you have some kind of new message. Be careful about that. It really hurts your creativity because you're not focused on what you're doing. And this happens, I think, to everybody. So I think sterile time is very important. It's the same, of course, with emails. Some people get all their emails on the phone and even have a sound notification on that. I think you can just go crazy by having so much information. So I think the important thing is one question sometimes I ask activists is not just what kind of information do you need or do you need to explore more, but what is the added information that you're getting that you're not supposed to get? What kind of information will flood with information? What information is unuseful for you? You don't need that. And some of this information is not the information itself, it's just the information that you got information, which is exactly these text messages and notifications and sound. It's not information, it's just the information that you got information. And that is most of the times, from my experience, totally unnecessary in most cases. The third thing I want to talk about, you can see that in the slide, is multitasking. So there was a study which came in the conclusion that multitasking increases productivity. It's a little bit contradiction to what I said before. So they said in this something like, if you take a bath and think about ideas, or in the shower, it helps your creativity. You're doing something, you're doing something, but it's something simple. It's not doing 2 things which are complicated at the same time. If you're doing something simple that you know how to do, like taking a shower or a bath, and think about ideas, it helps. Random information. This is another method which I learned online, and I have to say it didn't help me a lot. I came up with one good idea from this, but generally speaking, wasn't so attracted to it, but it's very personal. Maybe for you it will be the best. It goes like this. You're thinking about something. Now, take random information, and I'll explain in a minute what is random, and get it inside and try to connect this random information to what you're doing. So let's say we talk now about Oleg and his sociology, right? If I want to do that, I would go to Wikipedia now and press on the random article button. They have such a button on Wikipedia, and it just takes you to a random article about, I don't know what, maybe about basketball in Afghanistan. And we will read about basketball in Afghanistan and think how we can use what we read about basketball in Afghanistan to help you, Oleg. And sometimes interesting things come out of it. Again, I have to say, for me, not very beneficial so far. I do think the information, it's good sometimes to add random information, but if it's completely random, sometimes it just throws you to totally irrelevant things, and it's a bit more hard. With the analogies, you saw that I chose analogies which are a little bit simpler and have something in common, like the feminist movement, or even hunting, right? It's people who have like a target, and I'm going to the target, and I'm trying to kill the target, etc. Random information. So this is the next thing. Oh, sorry. And another thing is, which is important for creativity, is of course the atmosphere, right? Are you at home? Are you at nature? What is the sound around you? Are you after a shower? Are you hungry? All of these things are very important. If we are, and they all have to do with the body sensation. We have a lot of sensations in our body every minute. So if we are hungry, it distracts us. If we are cold, we have these sensations in the body, and maybe it will be harder for us to think about creative ideas. So mind the atmosphere. Some people are more creative with music. I think this is very obvious, but still I wanted to talk about it because it's important. I want to go back to the first thing that I've said, that I see creativeness as hard work, order, and systemization. And I don't think this lecture gave the explanation why I think that, and I want to give it now. Hard work. Let's try to be creative now and think about how to improve aquaculture in Slovenia. Does anyone have an idea how to improve aquaculture in Slovenia? No one, right?
But aquaculture in Slovenia is something that, I mean,
bad.
Yeah?
Of course it's bad.
Okay.
It doesn't need improvement. It was just for the sake of the question.
Okay. Yeah,
of course,
okay.
I'm very much against every aquaculture because it's hurting and killing animals. Needless to say, like I'm against hunting. I'm just using it, as an example. Does anyone have an idea? The reason why I asked this is to say that I don't have any idea, and the reason is because I don't know a damn thing about aquaculture in Slovenia. I just don't know anything about it, except the fact that I wanted to stop forever. We cannot be creative, or it's hard to be creative about things that we don't know about. The more we know, the more we are creative. It's very obvious what I'm saying right now, and yet people think about creativity as having nothing to do with us studying the field in depth. Oleg, if you are to read more about the sociology, things that have to do with this information center for sociological information about the attitude towards animals, you learn more and more and more, you will be more creative. If I learn more about what I'm doing, I will be much more creative because I have more branches to catch. I have more hooks. So first of all, it's hard work. If we're more experts on what we do, we will be more creative, period. The second thing is order. If we don't have our information very organized, I use, for example, a OneNote. It's a note-taking application, but there are a few note-taking applications. I think it's very important to use those, to have all our thoughts very gathered, very systemized, very ordered in some place, and we can always have access to this information. It can be something that we thought about a year ago, some random idea we thought about a year ago, but we can use it 2 years after or 1 year after we thought about it. The more we're organized, the more hooks we have, the more information we have that we can access, and our brain is very limited. You can never remember so many things as you write, and you can never remember them in the same accuracy that then they are kept when you write them. So I think order is very important for me. As I get more organized and I I do a lot. I spend, I think, compared to other activists, a lot of time in organizing my information. I get more creative. And the third thing is systemization. We gotta have a system for creativity. Don't just leave it to the to the spontaneous moment. If we have a system, we have a squeezing patterns. If you say we are meeting, let's say, as a nonprofit every month someone brings one challenging question to someone else, or to the, I don't know, to the executive director, or to the PR person, or to whatever. And every month everybody brings, let's say, one new word that we need to have in our mutual conversations to be more aware of something in the world. Or it can be that someone brings an analogy from another world that he's interested in. It can be sports, it can be Buddhism, it can be whatever. Let's see what happens when we take this analogy and just put the animal rights in it. What come up? And the things are coming up, are popping up by themselves. You see, like with the feminist movement, I didn't do anything. I just said what I know from the feminist movement, what they are doing. And I said, okay, if we do it in the animal rights movement, so easy to generate creative ideas. But if you don't have a system, you won't do it. If it's spontaneous, you won't do it. It won't squeeze the creativeness out of us. It's something that has to be squeezed. So I think I made this slide to more to say something about, like, maybe our associations with creativity. And there is some kind of association which is romantic, you know, or maybe I have it, I don't have it, it will come out of the sky. I'm not creative, it doesn't come to me. You're not working hard enough. You're not organized enough. You don't have a system. You don't hear these words in connection to creativity. But I think this is the basis of creativity. Hard work, or being organized with the information and the knowledge, and systemization. If you have that, creativeness is being created by itself, and you're improving and improving, like with everything, like with sports, like with being an expert in a certain scientific field, like with everything. Last but not least, so this is the last slide, and afterwards it's open for discussion and conversation. Just a couple of readings and recommendations for after the lecture. The most important thing, and I will repeat again, make a routine space to challenge yourself. Like I just challenged Oleg, and Oleg challenged me. This should be something routine for creativity, by yourself, or interactions with people, or this and that. It could be either way. It's easier usually when it's with other people. Read a book about it. I read How to Think Like Leonardo da Vinci, 7 Steps to Genius Every Day. So this is a book which is, I think, quite interesting. I find it a bit annoying also, I have to say, to be honest, but it's a good book which helped me. And the third thing is, don't be spontaneous about it, because you can squeeze so much more out of yourself by being systematic. I want to thank Oleg and every one of you. And now let's open this for questions and thoughts and everything you want to say.
Yeah, I guess I'm the first one to ask. Yeah, first of all, thank you so much. It was super useful, and wow, it was very interesting and open-minded for me, especially this kind of things about systematization and the fact that creativity can be trained, you know. But what would you call the main like, not obstacles, the main mistakes on the way to this creative thinking in animal rights, and like maybe some common things that people forget to avoid, but would be better to avoid in order to, you know, not go to the same obstacles you or other creative activists already went through, you know? Do you have any this kind of things in your mind when you work on some subject?
I think that the one of my mentors told me that people tend to think in loops. And this is why just having a subject and just think about it, okay, I'm gonna think about it now for half an hour, a lot of the times it doesn't work. Of course, we do that always, and we should continue to do it, but we tend, and I see this on myself, when I observe my own thoughts, I try to get in these loops and come back to the same things over and over again. And if we think, I'm sorry for repeating this again, but I think that is exactly my answer to your question. If we think about creativity as something like we think about a painter, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So he comes and it paints and or music and the muse comes or it doesn't come. And I need to take, sometimes you need to take a walk. Yeah, sometimes it's good. Sometimes it's good to take a shower. Sometimes it brings more creativity. But if we think about it for something that is, I don't know, divine or something above us, we'll be stuck. If we think about it like, okay, I'm stuck with creativity, maybe I need to learn the subject better, get to know the facts better. I'm not going to take 5 hours and learn a lot more of the facts, and then I'm going to come back to my creative session and see what happens. Or I just, where is my system for creativity? What are my analogies? And everything, write these things down. When you're creating when you're working on the creative process, write the things down. It will really help you. Be aware of what you're doing, and you can also look at it afterwards. So maybe you need 2 sessions a month and not 1 session a month if you want to be creative. Maybe you need a different method. Maybe the compartmentalization is not working. Questions with language, with analogies, with other things. Of course, if someone's stuck in creativity, he can talk to creative people or to experts. He can learn more about that. I just gave, a small glimpse of this whole world. But I find that the most common obstacle is just the way that people think about this subject. Like no one's thinking, oh, I'm stuck in creativeness. I gotta go and work harder and understand better all the facts that has to do with my field. It's something like, it sounds, for me at least, it sounds like it's not connected. But it is connected. It's exactly that. Hard work, systematization, and order. I think these are things that once you get more and more into them, creativeness starts pumping up and piling and incrementally growing. It's something that grows incrementally.
Okay, I will have a look on Facebook. Maybe we'll have some questions here. No, then I will ask another question of mine. I wanted to ask, can you give an example or maybe a few examples of what was in your opinion, the best like representation of creativity in animal rights activities, like, I don't know, like last years or something? What can you call like the example, like the masterpiece of creativity in animal rights, if you can remember something like that?
Good question. I actually haven't thought about it. One thing which I think was very creative, but it wasn't in the animal rights movement, but we can definitely copy paste it, is they had the first hologram demonstration in the history. Did you see that? This was the title, the first hologram demonstration in history. So what happened is in Spain, they had some kind of a law which limited the ability to protest in front of parliament or governmental buildings, something in that sort. So the activists said, okay, we cannot protest, we will bring a hologram. And they brought this big screen and on them hologram. And sometimes somehow you could enter, you can sign up on the internet and they would have your hologram there. I don't know exactly how they did it technically, but they managed somehow to. You send a picture or something like that, and they show you a hologram in front of this building. And it was crazy. It was everywhere on social media, on all the biggest media outlets all over the world. The first hologram demonstration in history. Wow, that's a title, right? And when I saw this, I thought, okay, but the pigs and the cows and the chicks and the fish and all of them cannot go and protest also. What about bringing their holograms in front of the parliament buildings? So that was something that came to mind. I think there was extremely creative work. It also had a budget and very experienced and expert people doing that. So I thought that was really creative. I think that let me try to think about some other examples. Now, creativeness is not just something which is very visual or very artist-like or something like that. So for instance, the Good Food Institute, which is the biggest nonprofit in the world, which is promoting alternative proteins, has a very good resource page. And in this resource page, you have a lot of information for entrepreneurs and investors and scientists, etc. And I think it's a very good information center. And I find it to be very creative work, very creative and very good work. But we don't tend to think about these things as creative, but definitely it is. So I find also this information center very eye-opening. A third, if I'll try to squeeze a third example out of myself, because right now these are the only two that come to mind. Another very thing which is very creative. Let me think. I need to go over many things that I wrote about. I have like a page which I saved. So I'm sure if I look at it, I will see a lot of things that I really liked. There was one thing in particular I just cannot come to mind. What's yours, Oleg? What would you say was the most creative thing you saw in the last in all the history? Never mind when.
I never actually thought about it, like in terms of creativity. But one of the at least the craziest and outrageous ones that I can remember right now was in Israel when our friends from 269 were throwing the heads of animals in the fountain in Tel Aviv. You know, that was shocking. That was outrageous. That was in a way even disgusting. But it was creative, goddammit, you know, bringing the death out of the slaughterhouses to the public field, like so explicitly and so like in the middle of the everyday life. This is something like, you know, hard to overcome for every passerby because it's shocking. It's, you know, it's eye-opening, I would say. Something like that.
A few years afterwards, they had a cat barbecue in the Israel Independence Day.
I remember that, yeah.
Israel Independence Day is the day where they eat the most meat. All the Israeli, you know, fields of grass, the parks are filled with people eating meat. So they ate the meat of a cat. Of course, not a real cat.
Yeah, it was Satan, I guess, yeah. And and people were calling police saying that it's cruel to eat cat. I remember this thing. Yeah. Yeah,
but it's a good question. I need to think about it, and then I could come up, I think, with a lot of things, because there is a lot of creative work out there. Exactly. Really, a lot of creative work. Yeah.
Yeah, and for me, there is like a website that's called Beautiful Rising, and I use it a lot to find the tactics, how to work with these situations and how to protest in an artistic way. So when they like a lot of cases how to work like this.
Can you repeat what's the name of the website?
Beautiful Rising, like Beautiful Trouble, but Beautiful Trouble is a book and Beautiful Rising is a website.
Virtual Rising.
Beautiful Rising? Beautiful Rising?
Rising, like a sun rising, right?
Beautiful Rising.
Send me the link afterwards, Oleg, okay? I will be
okay. I guess this is the one, no? I just put it in the chat here. I guess.
You want to share screen, Oleg, so everybody can see it?
Yeah, just a sec.
Yeah, link is right.
Yeah, this one. I sent the link to the chat. So Beautiful Rising. This is the one. You didn't see. I didn't share my screen. Just a sec. I don't know how. Yeah, like this. I don't know. I somehow don't understand how to share my screen. I will try again.
Maybe my screen was shared. This is why you cannot share yours. I don't know.
It's something. Just a second. Something wrong with the. It's not my laptop actually. I borrowed it, so I don't know what's about the settings. But the link I sent to the chat, Timothy says it's correct. So you see the chat now of the Zoom, so you can just copy it from there.
Okay, great. Any other questions from someone or something that anyone wants to say? We have, I think, 8 minutes.
Yes, no, I mean, yes, we have 8 minutes, and no question on Facebook, not from me, neither. yeah, I guess we can finish on that. Thank you so much, Ronen. It was super interesting and useful, and yeah, wow, great. You made a very hard work. You made a very proper order, and you worked on the systematization of it. So even in this presentation, you showed all the tools of how the creativity can work for the better tomorrow.
Thank you, Oleg. Thank you very much for you and for everybody.
Much.
And if someone wants to ask me something or have this presentation, or though it doesn't have that much information, but any way that I can help you, if you want to reach out, don't hesitate. You have my email here on the screen, and have a very good conference. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Have a nice evening. See
Bye.
you. Ciao, ciao. Bye-bye.
Ciao, ciao.